As I said, we'll be looking at diabetes, and you'll see some bit of the heart issues coming out in it. So there's a video that we'll be watching first, and then we'll go through a quick presentation. So we'll just watch the video first, and then we go to the quick presentation. I don't know. Pass it in front, please. So we can have a better view, please. Volume. Sound. Sorry, Don, we have a bit of a technical glitch.
That's all right.
And Mom is not here. But I might just have to just skip this video and just go straight into the presentation. I wanted to show it to you because I believe, that's how I learn a lot. I can read something and I can hear something, but when I see it,
Your mic isn't singing. Turn it on.
I'm sorry. I can hear it, I can understand much better when I see things. When I picture things, and then whatever I hear makes much more sense. So, unfortunately, I apologize. It's technology, and we're all old people. We don't know too much about technology. So, I didn't use a computer till I was about 27. That's the first time I used a computer. So I'm a bit late. So we'll just go straight into the presentation. And if Marvin comes, then we can jump back into it. Yeah, Marvin, Daniel, can you just go straight to the presentation?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. I don't like this.
Can you bring the flash drive down, please? Because it's,
Should
for
be.
some, yeah, I know, but for some reason it doesn't.
So, can we get these two lights off and then turn these ones on? So you can get a bit of, that's better.
Much better.
Correct. So, again, good evening. And I apologize for the glitch. We're looking at this evening diabetes, they call it the sugar eater. And there's actually a plant in which grows mainly in India, which they call sugar eater, but the actual name, scientific name is Gymnema sylvestri. Or guamar in the Indian tongue. But it's Gymnema sylvestri or guamar. It's very, I came upon it accidentally. I was trying to help a lady who was in the late stage of diabetes and about to lose her eyes, but her blood sugar was like way high. And I went to the shop and asked for something else, and the gentleman gave me that in mistake. But in 10 days, her sugar level was at normal level. So it was very good. And then after I read about it, I know that it also, for a person who has type 1 diabetes, it actually reverses it. And so it's good.
So how you spell that?
So again?
How you spell
Oh, Gymnema, I spelled it right. I spelled it right. Yeah, Gymnema. See? Visual. Gymnema. Gymnema, and then Sylvestri. Sylvestre. One. E, not one.
I just got Jim.
Oh,
I got that part.
Gymnema. That's Gymnema.
Yeah.
And the second part is Sylvestri. Sylvestre. Gymnema sylvestri. Very good herb. And it also helps you to lose weight because it removes the sweetness of food, so you don't crave sugar. But let's get started with the sugar eater.
Okay.
And notice, thank you. I'm controlling things now. From a practical standpoint, there are two types of diabetes mellitus. Type 1, where the pancreas secretes no insulin, and type 2, where there is insulin resistance. However, there are other types of diabetes. Now, these other types of diabetes are always indicated by the qualifying terms, whereas diabetes mellitus, Latin for sweet, is most of the time referred to just as plain diabetes. Okay? So here are some of the diabetes you might be familiar with. not familiar with. Qualifying terms for other types of diabetes. Diabetes insipidus, lack of flavor, meaning, you know when you say something tastes insipid? And then you have renal diabetes. For all those who are nurse, you can understand it. And then you have gestation diabetes, pregnancy. So those are other not so common types of diabetes. Type 1 diabetes. In type 1 diabetes, the pancreas makes little or no insulin. Without insulin, sugar cannot enter cells to be used for energy. The body's tissue are starved and blood glucose level grow dangerously high. It begins most often in youth, but it may also occur in older adults. 5% to 10% of diabetes mellitus patients have type 1 diabetes and require insulin therapy as their treatment. At the end, we will show you a diagram of inside the pancreas with the two areas that it says Isaac of Langerhans. You have the beta cells and the alpha cells. The beta cells are the ones that help the pancreas to produce insulin, and you'll see what happened inside there. Type 2 diabetes mellitus. In type 2 diabetes, the pancreas produces some insulin, but it is either too little or is not effective. Also, insulin receptors that control the transport of sugar into cells may not work properly or are reduced in numbers. Symptoms of diabetes. Can you see in there? For type 1, it shows you sudden weight loss. For type 1 or 2, you get fatigue, tiredness, increased hunger, increased thirst, increased urination volume and frequency, frequent infections, slow healing, cuts or sores, blurred vision, dry, itchy skin, and numbness in feet, hands, and impotence. That's why I wanted to show the video, because the video would help you to understand some of these a little bit more, because you'll see the animation showing you how it actually works. So for example, a person who has problem with their eyes, they call it diabetic retinopathy. And what actually is happening, the nerves in the eyes, the blood vessels in the eyes become very brittle, so they break easily. And the blood just spills in front of the retina. And that's what blurs your vision. But it's something that can clear up because your body keeps making new blood vessels through angiogenesis. Hence the word genesis, the beginning. So angio, vessels, and genesis, beginning, new. Right. What's going on? I can't change it again.
Maybe we can change it from
Can someone change it for me? Because, right. Well, go back to the other slide. Okay, so that's coming from all the way from the bottom. So I need to go back to the top. Keep going all the way to the top. Alright, back now. Again. Yeah, that's it. What is insulin? Insulin is an essential hormone produced in the pancreas and released into the bloodstream. Insulin attaches itself to cells at places called insulin receptors. Once attached, insulin allows sugar or glucose from food we eat to enter the liver, fat, and muscle cells where it is used for energy. So basically, you're going home, drive up to your driveway, take out your house key, put it into the door, open the door, and you get in. Now the house key represents insulin, and the area where you put the key represents the receptor. The door that you open represents the transporter protein, and you going in, you represents the glucose. And you going into your house is the cell. Make sense?
Yes.
Now, you're going to see, I'm going to say it now, and then explain before then. But if, how does this door open? This door. So let's say, because it's open outdoors, it's different. Let's say open in, right? But if I put something here, I have my key, and I try the door, and I push, I can't get in, right? Because there's something at the door. That's all what diabetes really is. Something blocking the door. And we're going to look at and find out what that something is. So basically, something is preventing insulin from latching onto the receptor, which is the key, opening the door, opening the cell for the transport of protein to allow the sugar to come in. And we're going to look at what that something is. Without insulin, cells in the liver, muscle, and fat have a difficult time vacuuming up glucose from the blood. These tissues are capable of vacuuming up only a small percentage, 5 to 10% of the glucose in circulation without the help of insulin. When insulin is present, the amount of glucose that can be transported into tissue significantly increases, allowing tissue to be properly fed and keeping blood glucose concentration in normal range. So basically, if you have insulin working properly, you get that. You won't have the glucose running around in the blood cell too long, in the blood vessel too long. They'll be able to go into the cell, and the cell will be satisfied, be able to get energy in the mitochondria and work. Because without insulin, without sugar going into the cell, the mitochondria will stay there and you won't get any energy. So in other words, the glucose functions as petrol for your car. Don't put any petrol in, can't drive. Don't put any glucose in the cell. You can have glucose in your body, but if it's not in the cell, no function. All right, make sense?
Yes.
All right. That's why I wanted you to see the video, because the video paints a beautiful picture. What is diabetes? The term diabetes comes from the Greek word meaning siphon or run through. In medicine, it signifies the excretion of an excessive urine volume. It is characterized by the polytriad: excessive urination, excessive thirst, and excessive hunger. Those are the three things that a doctor would look at when they try to diagnose you if you have diabetes. Am I correct, nurses?
Yes.
Good. Diabetes is the name of a group of chronic symptoms. They say diabetes is a disease, but diabetes is, today this came to me, diabetes is actually a chronic symptom that leads to other diseases. Because diabetes is actually just a metabolic dysfunction. That's what it is. Your body not produce, breaking up glucose properly, not breaking up proteins and carbohydrates. But that means that if it's a symptom, it can be fixed.
Yes.
But by keeping you on the medications, what you're doing, you're leading yourself to a graveyard, slowly but surely, because then you're going to see what's all the other things going to happen when you keep. Because it actually is easily reversible, because this what's the word? The analogy that I gave you just now showed you that there's something blocking the door. So common sense tells me I have another key, which is my back door key. I go to the back door key, move this, let my guest in. Correct?
Yes.
It's the same thing. So do something that can remove what's blocking it, let your guest in, which is the sugar. I'm glad I'm such a simple person. Because when you complicate things, oh boy. So diabetes is the name of a group of chronic symptoms that affect the way the body uses food to make the energy necessary for life. Primarily, diabetes is a disruption of carbohydrate, sugar, and starch metabolism that also affects how the body metabolizes fats and proteins. Now, this is looking at how it functions properly. So proper glucose metabolism looks at carbohydrates first, sugar and starches from the food we eat are broken down into the stomach and intestine into the glucose, okay? Step 2, where's step 2? Right, pancreas and liver comes in play. The glucose passes from the intestine via the villi through the bloodstream into the liver where it is stored. Glucose is an important source of energy. Step 3. The pancreas through insulin controls the amount of glucose stored in and released from the liver for use throughout the day. Step 4. Insulin also controls the cells in the muscle. Insulin also controls the cells in the muscle fiber, fat, kidneys, and other organs. Without proper insulin levels, these cells do not absorb glucose from the bloodstream. Thus, they do not receive enough nutrition to carry out the organic processes, which is metabolism, necessary for life. Now, something which I knew before, but came back to me today again as I was looking at something else about potassium. How beautiful potassium is. When you eat your food and you exercise, you burn sugar and you burn fat, right? Now, but also the body also stores sugar. But the beauty about potassium allows the body to store sugar as sugar. When you have low levels of potassium, it causes the body to store sugar as fat. So if you're a person trying to lose weight, you need to increase your potassium. Because potassium will help the body to store sugar as sugar instead of storing sugar as fat. So that's how important potassium is to the body. And out of all the electrolytes that we use in our body, potassium is the one that we require the most. 4,700 milligrams we need every single day. And I mentioned one simple way to get it through cream of tartar. Adding cream of tartar to some vegetable juice, or adding cream of tartar to some juice, any juice, and drink it. It doesn't really, it tastes more like, you have a tartish taste. It's like, yeah,
It tastes like a little lemon.
lemon, exactly. So some people don't like it, I don't care. It's going to do something good to me, I'll take it.
Yes, yes.
Regardless of your form of diabetes, metabolic control under your physician's care is essential for you to get well, instead of just managing your diabetes under your physician's care using drugs.
That's right.
So what they do, they manage your situation. I don't manage, no. Okay, let me put it this way. Pastor, I'm a sinner. And sin is the worst disease anyone can have. Because it's the major cause for every other disease. I'm a murderer. I'm just going to kill once every fortnight. I'm getting counseling from a pastor, and he said, just come. I used to kill every day. I'm just killing once a fortnight now. So I'm managing it.
You're married.
I'm a murderer, but I'm managing how I take life. And I try to look. That's how you get serial killers. I manage and I kill all at a certain time, and I only look for certain people. Serial killers are people who manage killing. They become skilled. That's why it's so hard to catch them. So they pick their target. I don't want to manage my sickness. I don't want to manage my sickness. I want to get rid of my sickness. I don't want to manage my sin. I want to get rid of my sin. So treat sickness as such. Here is how metabolic control is important. Here is why metabolic control is important, regardless of the type of diabetes you have, whether it be type 1 or type 2. Now, the need of all cells have one thing in common. They need oxygen and food to metabolize. So you see at the top you have the stem cell, then you have the sperm cell, then you have the muscle cell, then you have the nerve cell, then you have the epithelial cell, then you have the fat cell. And they all have one thing in common. Every single one of them need food and oxygen. And the food is glucose. So cell life processes depends on metabolism. These life processes include digestion, the breakdown of food for nourishment, assimilation and excretion of the food residue, respiration, taking in of oxygen, its utilization in the tissues, and the giving off of carbon dioxide, synthesis and degradation of materials, movement, and the response to stimuli. The impairment of any of these just mentioned within a cell, whether by trauma, infection, tumors, degeneration, or congenital defects, is the basis of a disease or a disease process. So if just one thing is removed, you notice it says if you break one of the commandments, you break all. You ever think of why they did not divide the clothing of Jesus? Why they didn't? That special coat that he had. And they tossed that for it.
It was prophecy.
He didn't break the law.
It was prophesied that they wouldn't.
But he didn't break the law.
One, he didn't break the law. And two, it's also a message. It's Christ's code, right? Righteousness. You can't, the moment you divide righteousness, you're falling. So the backbone is faith. So when you think about it, in our life as well, if you remove just one principle of health, you're heading for danger. Food metabolic processes begins in the digestive system. And the digestive system starts here. And I'll go further, the digestive system starts here. You're choosing of the food. Or looking on the food. Because as you look at the food, the stomach starts to churn and the saliva starts to get, you know? So I would say the eyes, the mouth, the teeth, tongue, saliva glands, the submandibular gland and duct, the parotid glands, the esophagus, the gullet, the stomach, the pancreas, the colon, small intestine, the liver, the gallbladder, and the anus. All of that plays a part in the digestive system. Because if everything has worked good but you're not letting anything out, it's going straight into the circulatory system and you become sick. So if I've seen people pass that 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and they don't use the toilet. And they joke about it.
Oh, I don't think it's funny.
And it's mainly women. Mainly women. And I don't. Women are very picky eaters. Very, very picky eaters. And it's very dangerous. Oh, I was going to go. I'm not controlling it. Poor digestion leads to low nutrient absorption. Low nutrient absorption is a metabolic problem that leads to organ dysfunction, which in turn leads to system imbalance and other serious complications. I have to look into this problem because I never used to be like this. So something's not going on up here. I don't know. I have to look into it. See, I have conditions too. The fundamental cause of diabetes, mellitus type 2. The fundamental cause of diabetes is not a low level or complete lack of hormone, insulin, from the pancreas. This is just one of the key factors that is involved in the process of the disease. So, not making insulin is not the cause of diabetes. But they will tell you that's the cause. Some people will tell you. The underlying cause of diabetes, type 1 or type 2, type 1 will be explained at a later date in a different presentation because they're caused by two different things. Whereas type 2 diabetes is caused by dietary fat overload, especially from animal saturated fatty acids and unused sugar converted into fats, which leads to insulin resistance and free radical proliferation. So type 1 is caused by something completely different, whereas type 2 is caused by fat. Type 1 is an autoimmune disease. Type 2, they still say type 2 is also an autoimmune disease, but I rather to believe what the Bible said. That's why God wants us not to eat fat, as in animal fat, that is. Eat too many carbs, and the carbs I'm talking about here is not your complex carbs, talking simple carbs, like the white flour and the pastry and all that stuff. Stuff that burns easily. So carbohydrates is necessary. It's part of the macronutrient. You have the carbs, the protein, and the fats. So they're important. So you can just see the little cycle there. And I'm going to explain that now. What is insulin resistance? Insulin resistance is a condition in which multiple tissue in the human body become resistant to the effects of insulin. Simple stated, insulin resistance occurs when tissue become dumb to insulin. As a result of insulin resistance, the pancreas is forced to secrete increasing amounts of insulin, resulting in a condition known as hyperinsulinemia. Now, you have a child and you say, Marvin not calling, not answering. What are you going to do? You're going to call him, right? Still not answering. What are you going to do? You're going to call him until he answers. So what you find with insulin resistance, you eat naturally, because that's the only time insulin comes out of the pancreas, or should come out of the pancreas, is when you eat. Comes out, and why it comes out is because your food has been digested, the body realizes that sugar is in the blood, and it needs to go into the cell. So it releases insulin to bring it into the cell by opening the door. But insulin goes to the door is locked. The insulin is still in the blood. The body realizes that the sugar is also still in the blood, so it thinks, okay, let me just top it up. You probably need some more insulin. Sends out more insulin. Then you have sugar on top of insulin, plus more insulin circulating in your blood. That's dangerous.
Is that what causes it to increase?
That's what causes the insulin to go up as well. Yeah. I'm not smart. And if I can understand this, I don't know why these people who spend so much years in school do this to people. And trust me, I am not smart.
Yes, sir.
I just take it as God give it to me and say, this is it. Remember the demonstration that I showed you with the 4 people that came up? The 5, that came up. And if you eat and your food is digested, then insulin is going to dissipate. But if you eat and then go on snack, insulin is going to come up, and insulin is already in the blood, more insulin is going to come. That also, overeating and eating between meals, cause diabetes. But the underlying cause is fat, and we're going to get there. What causes insulin resistance? So we've looked at the fact that, well, I am saying to you that insulin resistance is what leads to you developing diabetes, but fat is what causes you to get insulin resistance. You following? Yes. Right. So you got the muscle and you got the liver. And the liver plays a very important part when it comes to people who are diabetic. I can almost probably 100% of every patient who is diabetic, probably, or if not 100%, probably 99% have a fatty liver. Those who are diabetic. Insulin resistance is caused by a lipid overload resulting from either a high fat diet or insufficient fat and sugar burning through movement. In other words, through exercise. So if you don't exercise, is your exercise important again? If you don't exercise, the sugar is going to do what? Turn into fat and store into the
Hips and other ones.
different parts of the body, the muscle and the liver. Now, I'm going to look at something here so you can see. I like illustration. Blood vessels our arteries are the main transportation channel for delivering nutrients and oxygen to our entire body. In order for arteries to efficiently accomplish this task, its inside lining must have a very smooth surface. Right, so as you can see there, right? Smooth, nice. That's a baby's inside. That's every baby when they're born, unless they have some other congenital problem. Look like that. And God intended that we should grow up and looking like that, saying, sweep out, clean. Now you have the main factors that cause disease blood and poor circulation. You have first one, high blood glucose. Then the second one, you have, where is the second one? High blood pressure. Because what high blood pressure does, it cuts the blood vessels. And when it cuts the blood vessel, you know, when you drive potholes, those potholes are filled with the plaque, and then it builds up. And that's where you get that build up there. Because if it's smooth, there's nothing for it to itch onto. You just roll off. But because the pressure cuts into it, there's a little lesion, so it falls into those lesions. Then you have low blood pH. Low blood pH, number 4.
Number 3 in terms of
High blood pressure. Number 2 is high blood fat, yeah. And then you have, so high blood fat and the triglycerides. I'm going to look at, you're going to see those. And the low blood pH. pH is to do with alkalinity and acidity. And the food that you eat is what causes your body to be alkaline or acid. And every plant-based food is alkaline and a small, well, let me rephrase that. Let's say about 80% of plant-based food is alkaline and 20% is as low acid. Low. And low acid will show you in the yellow form. And then for animal-based meat, all meat, very, very, very acidic. And then some dairy products, low acidic, and some are very low. Right? But in the last presentation, that's what I'll show you the whole, everything. Now the etymology, so I'd love to look into the meaning of words, because it helped me to understand things better. So to understand how dietary fat overload causes insulin resistance, which in turn leads to diabetes mellitus, let us look at the etymology of the word saturation and the chemical composition of fat and radicals. This means we are going to do a bit of chemistry in order to understand what is fat. I took out the chemistry section and leaving just the saturation part. He said, now the word saturation comes from the Latin word saturare, right? Saturare, meaning to fill. The word carries with it 6 different meanings, and all of them means the same thing, to fill to the capacity, maximum capacity, okay? I didn't put the words there, but I looked at all of them, and they all mean the same thing. For example, in environmental soil science, nitrogen saturation means that an ecosystem such as a soil cannot store any more nitrogen because it's saturated with nitrogen. You could throw all you want, the soil is not going to hold it anymore because it's filled. So in biochemistry, because I remember Jesus used nature to explain spiritual things, so I'm going along that line. Says, so in biochemistry, saturation denotes the degree of which a protein binding site is fully occupied at any given time. So in the case of diabetes, the transporter protein site is occupied by saturated fats. So therefore, because it's occupied, if my hands are full, can I hold anything else? No. Since all fats, and that little picture that you see there is an example of what a fat molecule looks like. You have that's blueberry here, and all the toothpicks. So the blueberry represents the backbone, which is like the glycerol, right? And then the toothpicks represent the different chains of fatty acids, right? But every dietary fatty acid have this one thing in common: the glycerol. The only thing is different is the chains of fatty acids. So a saturated fatty acid would look different. It doesn't have any what they call a clunk in it. It's flat, whereas a polyunsaturated fatty acid is flat, and then it has like an elbow, so it's more flexible. And the beauty about the saturated fatty acid I'm talking about is not plant-based saturated fatty acid, because plant-based saturated fatty acids is different from animal-based fatty acid. Take, for example, coconut oil is good for people who are diabetic. Butter, on the other hand, is not. Both of them are saturated fatty acid, but the body uses them differently. See how God is amazing?
Amen.
Saturated fatty acids are the most potent influences of insulin resistance. And how do I know this? I'll show you. Saturated fatty acids are derived mainly from animal sources and have direct negative effects on the muscle and liver. If you visit almost any laboratory on the planet that studies insulin resistance in animals or in humans, and you will notice one simple technique that achieves insulin resistance in repeatable fashion: eating a diet high in fat, not carbohydrates. So some doctor will tell you that you're having too much carbohydrates. Stop eating the yam and the dashin, and no, that's what you need, because it's low glycemic food, and so they digest easily and they cause the body to release sugar slowly. So those are the foods when you're diabetic you should be eating, but doctors tell you to avoid them. In some studies, researchers use a diet high in fat and high in sucrose, table sugar, to ensure that both the muscle and the liver become extremely insulin resistant. So when they're doing tests in an animal, if they want to find out something about human disease, they first do it on an animal.
Yeah.
And in order to find out about insulin resistant, the quickest way to get the animal to become insulin resistant, they feed them a lot of fat. Thus prove my point. Here's what I've learned. When excess fat accumulates in the muscle and liver tissue, the ability of glucose to enter both tissues is significantly compromised. In one paper written about the effect of saturated fatty acids on tissue function, the authors state the following: an overaccumulation of unoxidized long-chain fatty acid can saturate the storage capacity of adipose tissue, resulting in a lipid spillover to non-adipose tissues such as the liver, muscle, heart, pancreatic islets. Under these circumstances, such as ectopic lipid disposition, can have deleterious effects. The excess lipids are driven into alternative non-oxidative pathways, which result in the formation of reactive lipid moieties that promote metabolic relevant cellular dysfunction. In a nutshell, what it's actually saying: when you have animal fats or any fat in too much, even good fats, that's why if you read consistent diet of food, Ellen G. White counsels to use nuts sparingly, because they're fats, and they can be harmful if you don't use them moderately. Okay? So, what you find when you have it, in areas that it's not supposed to be in, it will spill over into those areas. Because the areas that it's supposed to be in are filled. Can't hold anymore. But because you're still putting it into your body, it's going to go elsewhere. And so it will jump over into the pancreas, come up into the heart, into the lid. That's what happens. So when you overeat, when you eat between meals, that's the dangers you're putting yourself in. Causing chemicals to go in places where they're not supposed to be going. Another research paper had this to say: elevated free fatty acid levels due to obesity or to high fat feeding cause insulin resistance in skeletal muscle and liver, which contributes to the development of type 2 diabetes mellitus, and produce low-grade inflammation, which contributes to the development of arteriosclerosis, vascular diseases, and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So if you notice, one thing always leads to another thing, then lead to another thing, then lead to another thing. Everything is connected. One thing leads to another thing. And so you got a bit of diagram there: fatty diet, lipid overload, damaged mitochondria, low-grade inflammation, insulin resistant diabetes, or insulin resistant cancer, because they're now finding out that insulin resistance is one of the underlying causes of cancer. Why? Because insulin is a growth hormone, and it increases how a cells multiply and grows. If it takes, let's say it takes about 5 hours for a cell to reach mature stage. When there's too much insulin, it takes 2 hours. So speed up the process. And in speeding up, you're doing something that's too fast and you make a mistake, right? That's the same thing happens with the cell. They make mistake and you get the wrong DNA coding. Where it should be X, X, Y, Z, W, Q, you get the Q shift and a P come there. And that leads to a mutation. And that cell that was created, mutated, start to form its own children, and then you have the whole mutation carry on. Because of the insulin who caused it to be working too fast. Somebody showed me something yesterday about the rest period. That is why resting between a meal is important. Because it gives the cells also the chance to function properly, Sister Dana. It's important. You think God, I mean, God know our food. He gave it to us. He's just trying to tell us how to eat properly so we can save our lives. And this is should be the second to last slide. So here's a person who's on type 1 diabetes. You have the beta cells, and you can see everything is okay here in the right colors, and it produces insulin. But over here, you see it's gone pale. That means it's been damaged, and that's as a result of a autoimmune disease, where the immune system would have seen. Take for example, I'm going to explain it when I do that presentation. And let me ask in advance, Pastor, because that presentation is a very longer one than all the other presentation. So if we could start, let's say about 6 or 6:30, so we could get the time so I don't have to skip out anything. Because that presentation, if you understand that presentation, any sickness you can overcome. So I don't want to skip out any part of it, because it's going to show you all the underlying causes of how a person can develop a certain sickness. And there's more than one pathway. There's not so one pathway. So a person might have high blood pressure and you go, oh, it's because, remember I showed you the slide, and they said, oh, it's because of salt. Sodium retention. No, but it doesn't have to be sodium retention. It could be because of cortisol. It doesn't have to be because of cortisol. It could be because of insulin as well. Or different, remember I showed you? It could be the ACE converting enzyme. It could be renin, angiotensin, and all that. So it could be different pathways. So it's the same thing with various disease, you have more than one pathway. Or listen, you have more than one way to kill a cat or something? Skin a cat.
Which day is that?
It will be probably Thursday, yes. Probably Thursday. And then Sarah, I'll give you the remedy for everything. So it will be Thursday. And if I get other information, then I'll let you know. So, a person with diabetes succumb to these quite easily. You have loss of vision, and that's because of these little blood vessels bursting, and then your blood spilled in front of the retina and it blur your vision. But it can be reversed by changing your diet. Then, as the blood vessel starts to grow again, they grow much stronger, so they won't break so easily. Then you have Then you have nerve damage. That's why you have what is called diabetic. Thank you very much. Neuropathy. So you get that tinkling feeling in the feet, and sometimes you get it in the hand. That's why I wanted you to watch the video. Because what you find is that when there is not enough nutrients going to the nerve, they shrink. Because if you're not eating properly, what's going to happen? You're going to lose weight, right?
Yeah.
And people go say, the cells there start to shrink, and it gets narrow, and not enough nutrients and oxygen going there. And that's why you feel that tinkling and the heat in the area. And then you have kidney failure. Every person who's diabetic, if they don't do something about it, eventually end up having this problem. As far as I know. As far as I know. And if they don't have it, probably something else happened to them. But majority of the people that I know of having diabetes always have a problem with their kidney. Because what happened, it's a metabolic syndrome. That's what diabetes is. And so you have a load of toxins floating around and around, and what clears up toxin is sodium bicarbonate, along with the other minerals like the calcium and the phosphorus and the potassium. Now, when you are diabetic, those nutrients are very low in your body, and so it puts great pressure on the kidney, on the cells that they call the nephron cells, to actually filter the kidney. And then the kidney is not producing enough, because it's the kidney that produces the sodium bicarbonate. And that is why in the UK they use sodium bicarbonate to get a lot of people off dialysis, by giving them half teaspoon of the sodium a day, and it helps them to come off the dialysis, because it helps the kidney to start produce, because it takes off the pressure of the kidney. And they use it in the dialysis, in the actual liquid that filters the blood. Why? They don't tell you that. They don't tell you that. So all that thing that you're going through in the hospital, let them string you up and you sit there for, I don't know how long. 4 hours. And what they're putting through is taking out your blood and running sodium bicarbonate over it. Why don't you just take the sodium bicarbonate and drink it and stay at your home? Believe me, that's what they're doing. Europe is a little bit more ethical than America. They're still wicked, but they're a little bit more ethical. Then you have heart disease. Because the coronary arteries are not getting their nutrient. And so the heart starts to push. The blood vessels are blocked. So you start to push.
Push hard.
Then if it's not heart disease, it's a stroke. And then you have poor circulation that gives you these little ulcers, and it leads to gangrene. And I was sat there, my wife asked me just now what's wrong with me. Because there's a lady, just before I came up, they were going to cut off her foot, and I told them no. And I brought some stuff to her, and it was working and helping her. But the amount that I had was finished. And I bought some and sent back to them, but they didn't get it in time. And so it's because they're not having anything to put on it, it's going worse. And they WhatsApp me and told me that they rushing there to take off the foot. So that's why I was a little bit, down. But that's as quick as it is. Look how early I finished, because it's an easy problem to resolve. But because we are not told these things, so diabetes is just simple fat taking up too much place in your cells, preventing insulin from opening the door. So when you turn the receptor, it's blocked, so it can't open for the cell for sugar, glucose to go inside. That's all it is, as simple as that. I was told this by a gentleman from the States who came to England at the time and explained it to us. But then I went like a barbarian and did my own research and recognized the fact, along with the Bible. And it makes sense where God says, don't eat fat. God is trying to tell us something. I mean, the fat I'm talking, to be specific, is animal fat. So, and if you think about it, as I said it before, you have Moses, 120, and it says his eye was with him, and you have Isaac, 180. I know he's older, but he was on a bed, sick, blind, couldn't walk either. Diabetes. How do I know that? The thought and what the Spirit brought to me, he loved those Venice. Yeah, he loved it. So he was still a servant of God, he still lived. I'm not saying if you get diabetes, you're a sinner. No, that's all I'm saying, because I know sometimes people like to misconstrue what people say. That's all I'm saying. Diseases come because of the glory of God, and disease come because of disobedience. But let it not be on you that once knowledge comes, you still sit in darkness. You know that God is not really angry with us when we sin. You know when God is really upset with us? Is when we choose to stay in sin. What did Jesus say? Jesus said, I don't come to condemn you. A man is condemned when the light comes and he rejects the light. What the Bible says? The Bible says when you're in darkness, God wink. God is saying he doesn't know. So let me not charge. He's still sinning. He's sin still. But God said, I'm not charging it to your account. Jesus said, I'll take it. It's still a sin. Somebody have to pay for it. Jesus said, I'll take it. But the moment and not opportunities given you to hear the truth, and you hear the truth, let me back up and put it in this way. Ignorance is not knowing. Ignorance is having the opportunity to know, but you did not use the opportunity to know. So ignorance is not you not knowing. So some people would say, I don't want to know. That's not ignorance. As long as you have the opportunity to know, and you refuse to take the opportunity to know, you're not ignorant. Because God has presented the opportunity for you to know. And tonight you are given, and night after night since I've been here, you are given the opportunity to know what you can do for yourself. So you might be saying, well, let me come here for. Too late. But it's good. It's good. It's good. So that's in closing. So any questions?
How do you reverse diabetes?
How do I reverse diabetes?
What did she say?
Right on. Reset. Work from cause. Work from cause to effect. Right? We just look at the cause. Who can tell me the cause?
It's animal fat.
So it's not just saying animal fat. Yes, animal fat, but you have to take in how it is used. So animal fat, eating between meals, overeating, eating late at night, no exercise, not resting, and we're going to show you, because not resting can cause certain things to store into fat. So you have to. But I'm going to outline the whole plan and explain it on the last day of the weekend, which is the evening, which is the Sabbath, Sabbath evening. Daniel, you understand?
Sorry, it's the same question I was finding out.
Yeah, we're gonna look at it. All right, okay.
You said that you could eat yam and tashina.
Yeah.
And cool. Could you say that's
Starch, and the starch converts to sugar.
But it's low.
Yes, I tell you that.
Good question. Now you're gonna know the truth. No, she was asking that they say we can eat. They say you shouldn't eat dasheen and because of the starch, and the starch is converted to sugar. Which every food you eat converted to sugar, basically. Because when you eat your food, your proteins and everything, it's gonna convert to sugar. So if that's the case, don't eat protein. Don't eat. So the issue is because starchy food are high in sugars, but it is complex sugar. And so the way how it goes into the body, it breaks down slowly. And so the glucose is released slowly into the bloodstream. But if you eat, let's say, some white flour, you go to McDonald's and you eat and then you're hungry again, it goes quickly. Break down easily because there's no fiber, no resistance. Fiber is resistance. Make sense? Any other person saw something? No one was here? Yes, I know, I saw something. Just a minute. Go ahead, bro.
Since the word like diabetes, it used to be called sugar diabetes, so the sugar industry made them say it was destroying their reputation. They made them take sugar from it because they didn't want to be affiliated with diabetes, which they were.
Okay? Now he's saying diabetes, I can remember people calling it that because I've always known it to be sugar.
Yeah.
So he was saying diabetes was called sugar diabetes, and the sugar industry caused them to remove the term sugar from it. So it's just known as diabetes. Yeah.
Right plantain. Is that good for diabetes to eat?
Right. No, right plantain. Now, fruits are not complex carbohydrate except for some fruits. Nonetheless, fruits are rich in fiber. Both, where's my there are two types of fiber. Insoluble and soluble fiber. So fruits are rich especially in insoluble fiber, which plays a very wonderful role in removing cholesterol and all those stuff, which can contribute to arteriosclerosis, plaque building up in the body. So fruits is fantastic, but you just have to be in moderation. So take for example, what's it called? Blackstrap molasses. It's good for diabetic people.
What's that?
Blackstrap molasses. It has a sweet taste, but it's not a sweet food that is low glycemic because it's packed with nutrient. And because it's packed with nutrient, the body uses it differently. It's one of the most nutrient-dense food you can find on the planet Earth. Packed with minerals. Yes, Fern.
So there are some fruits that you can eat green and ripe.
Yes.
So you can eat like the green papaya a
Yes.
certain way and the ripe papaya a
Yes.
certain way. So what is the difference in what you get from it and what's the benefit? Because something like plantain, when you eat
Green plantain.
green plantain or ripe plantain, you prepare it differently.
Yes.
So what's the
Alright,
benefit? And
when the plant, take for example, sprouts. When you do sprouts, in the younger stage, it has more enzymes. And in the younger stage, it has more protein. So in the younger stage, take for example, a baby, in its development stage, the child brain is quicker than yours, sharper than yours. That's why in the first 7 years, the child can learn everything. You can teach a child 7 languages in the space of 7 years, and he learn every single one of them. You and me in our old age, it's a little bit difficult, because the mind is being developed. So the plant in the green stage is still being developed. So if you get a cow, and you kill it, and you get a banana tree or a plantain tree, and you cut off the green plantain, There's still life in the plant. So it doesn't decay. It's going through the stages. The life principle that God placed in it is still going through the process, and it moves from green to turn to ripe till it goes down, and then it goes to decay. Cow and you and I, when we die, we dead. And they say in Jamaica, your teeth don't dead.
That's right.
So that's the process it goes through. We move from decay, from death to decay. And it takes 4 days.
So like the papaya.
Yes, the papaya.
Is it better to eat it when it's green or ripe?
No, it's not. It's not a sense of better to eat it green or ripe. It's why you want to eat it. In a salad, it helps to digest the protein because the papaya it's enzymes, which is good. And in the fruits, the ripe papaya tastes way better than the green papaya. You get the juices, so it all depends what you want to use it for. Make sense?
What about the green plantain?
Fern, make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Same thing.
Green plantain.
It's the same principle. My sister and then Elder at the back. Yes?
There was conflict, lemon and lime. They said lemon is alkaline, but lime is acid.
I think they always said all citrus fruit is acidic.
The difference between lemon and lime is that lime has more, lemon has more, lemon has more, a higher concentration of the vitamin C, which is 80% in the lemon, versus the lime, I think it's like 70-something. Lemon has more of the vitamins and the mineral, lime have a little less. Just like the Celtic salt and the Himalayan salt.
Yeah.
That's just the only difference.
And one is a little tart and the other one.
So in other words, when it goes into the system, it becomes alkaline.
Yes.
Either one. So you can use
Understood?
And lime is cheaper.
Yes, Did you understand what she said?
Yes,
that's
it is suggested that if you grate the whole lemon, with the rind and everything, you get more alkaline from it.
Yeah, which is true, because most of the nutrients is in the skin. That's the only reason. And that's not just for lemon, that's probably for almost every fruit. The skin has more nutrients than the actual food itself. Coming to you, my sister and then my brother.
Beet juice. Beet juice.
Yes.
Is that too much for sugar overload in making beet juice?
No. Beet is good in potassium, beet is good in iron, beet is good in whole, it's nutrient dense. So it's good. Say it again?
I thought you had too much sugar.
No, they use it to make sugar, but it's not, if you drink it and eat it, it's not going to do you anything if you're diabetic. Always in moderation. Elder and then my sister. Yes?
The passion fruit, what do you know about it? I heard you doing research, the passion fruit is one of the best fruit for diabetes.
Don't know about passion fruit for diabetes, but like I said, I don't know everything, but I know about the flower of the passion fruit, which is good for brain problems. But I don't know of it for diabetes. I don't know everything.
high blood pressure.
Correct me if I'm wrong, you mentioned molasses, but it's the unsulfured organic.
Thank you very much.
So just make that difference.
Beautiful.
I have another question too.
Let me address that one. When you buy molasses, try and get the one that is unsulfured. That's basically it. Unsulfured. Where they don't add any sulfur to it. Thank you for that.
Okay, you mentioned the other night, and I'm trying to get it together, gangrene, that the DMSO is good. How would you prepare it to apply to gangrene?
For me, I saw you made a poultice for somebody in Sabah. I think I've only made a poultice for myself because I got married on a couch. So when I mashed up my foot playing football, and I just went to the hospital, got an X-ray, and went home and do what I had to do for myself by God's grace. And here I am standing up. So in terms of DMSO, what I do, I take my DSMO and I mix it with Scotch bonnet pepper. Because Scotch bonnet pepper helps circulation.
Right.
and you want to, with a person with gangrene, there's no circulation. That's why you have the gangrene. And the bacteria that come in, you have wet gangrene and you have dry gangrene. And the ones that are wet smells, that's because of a more dangerous bacteria. So I get the pepper, which is a, could be any pepper, as long as it's a hot pepper. As long as it's a hot pepper.
You could do the cayenne.
Yeah, any pepper, as long as it's hot pepper. In Jamaica, it's Scotch Bonnet we have. So I use let's say, 8 ounces of DMSO, no, 16 ounces of DMSO with about, let me see, try to, 12 to 24 peppers. This is, anybody, you don't have to follow my recipe. Because there's so much things you can do for in different ways. But the way that I do, 12 to 24 peppers, about 8 ounces of the DMSO, and 8 ounces of distilled water, which brings me to about a 50% ratio of DMSO in the solution. And then I use that to apply to the area. And depending on the person, you could let them take a 1/4 teaspoon once a day into some juice. So it helps the circulation internally, and it helps the circulation at the area. But then I would apply other things to it, like the bleach that I mentioned to you before, the calcium hypochlorite.
Right.
Because the calcium hypochlorite gets rid of bacteria very quickly, instantaneously. Okay.
What herbs can you use in terms of type 2 diabetes to help reversal, in terms of reversal?
Right, I'm going to show all of that Wednesday, but I just answer in passing. Not Wednesday, in the last meeting. So what I would use is, I mentioned earlier before I started anything, the Gymnema sylvestri. That lowers your blood glucose very quickly, safely. And if you have type 1, it actually proven repair the pancreatic cells and cause them to release insulin again. So I would use that. Then I use cream of tartar, because remember, cream of tartar is potassium, and potassium causes the body to store sugar in sugar, rather than sugar into fat. And it also softens or dampens the effect of insulin on the body. Alright? I would also use cream of tartar, Gymnema sylvestri, barberry. Yeah, barberry. No, barberry. Barberry and Oregon grape. Oregon grape, or you can use Oregon grape, or you can use what's the other one? No, hold a minute. What?
You cannot think.
What's the other one? I said it the other night. Golden seed, but I don't buy golden seed because it's too expensive. It's a very expensive herb. So I use Oregon grape or barberry. Why? Because they have a thing that's called there's a chemical in it that actually causes the liver to be able to break down fats and also break down the insulin resistance in the body. Proven over and over and over. And then you have ashwagandha, which is another Ayurvedic herb, which helps to calm down the cortisol. Because remember, cortisol is a growth hormone as well. So you're trying to get rid of all the things that will cause the body to hold on to fat. And then other stuff I would use would be like stuff you could use like fenugreek. Fenugreek helps to. There's loads of stuff you can use. Bitter melon. There's loads of stuff you can use. Loads of stuff you can use. No more questions? Did I answer your question, Ella? I did? That's it? Susan.
Okay, so you have somebody that's a diabetic, and they've already taken insulin, or they're already taken an oral hypoglycemic thing. How do you kind of titrate them to get off of that stuff and get on to the natural? I mean, wouldn't you say like a month or so that it would take
to get off?
To take them off of that stuff and get down to the natural things and the blood sugar normal, or kind of what's the time frame?
There's
no time frame.
There's no time frame, and I tell you why there's no time frame. Because it lies within the will of the individual. You have people who will just get up and said, that's it, no more. And I'm doing, and once they have the knowledge of what to do, they do it, and God bless their effort.
Yeah.
And you have others who are scared, and so you have to be tactful with them and wean them off their medication. So if they're taking a 50 milligram, whatever they're taking, metformin or whatever, then you let them slash that into 25 and you use in place the herbal stuff.
So you would be taking like the metformin with the herbal stuff?
But at a lower dose.
Go down, down, down.
As long as the herb, you know for a fact that the herb that you're giving does not interact with it.
But you have to too set up a protocol. Not just
Yes.
one thing is going to work. You've got to do a protocol for that person from getting up in the morning, what they eat.
Yeah.
So it has to be consistent. Because you just can't tell them, do this. Go and take lemon juice or something.
Correct.
But it has to be a protocol that they work on, assisting from breakfast, regularity, going to sleep, doing exercise. The 8 laws of health will
Correct.
come into that.
That's why I said on the last day I will show the 4 steps that God showed me. And I'll present that to anyone, and you can see, I'll explain every bit. Yes?
Yeah, I was just going to say, in answer to Susan's question, it has to be individualized,
Yes.
one. I did an internship at Wildwood, one of our natural facilities, and we did have people come with extremely high blood sugars, 500, 600 on insulin, on the orals, and we began immediately. We didn't stop their medication the first day, but because we knew that the diet, the exercise, and all that we were going to use for them, by that day 3, they probably were like at a small portion of what they were taking because they were doing, as he mentioned, all the other stuff. We prepared the food, we prepared the herbal teas, and gymnasium is one of the big ones that we used actually.
Because remember, it's the food that they were eating that kept them in that condition. So if they are removed from the situation and they're given different food, automatically things are going to change. It's a law. It can't be changed. It's a principle. So if you remove the offending food and replace it with the appropriate food, and they will even tell you, I don't want to take these drugs anymore. Because they don't feel like they need to take it. They will see the difference in their own body. And the doctors also, if he's a conscientious doctor, will recognize that there's something different, so I can't keep giving this person the same thing. Make sense?
Yes, it does. Witness. I'm a witness.
Okay. So, thank you very much for your prayers. Please keep me in prayer.
Yes.
I definitely need it. Pastor, I didn't know this. It's hard. I don't know how you guys become a pastor for so long and stay in it, and I'm sure sometimes you get some miserable church members, but yet still you stay faithful and you remain loving the ministry, because I'm tired. And this was what, a week? So imagine doing it for 40, 30 years? Come on, man. Respect your ministers. Respect your ministers.
Especially the good ones.
Especially the God-fearing ones.
Yes, sir. Man.
Amen.